Hey folks, I know it's been a long time coming, but I finally finished the second episode of turning a Yu-Gi-Oh card into a Magic card. There was a lot of helpful feedback on my first video, and I took it all into consideration for how I would approach this series going forward. In order to be able to adapt these cards from one game to the other, certain concessions will have to be made. What I mean by this is that I have decided on a philosophy of adaptation over translation, meaning that rather than being accurate to the original Yu-Gi-Oh card, I will be focused more on creating a Magic card that makes sense within that game. Also, the mana cost will be done at the end and be something I feel is fitting for the resulting creature rather than trying to figure out how to translate no mana into some amount of mana. With that preamble out of the way, the card I want to look at for this video is Asura Priest. There's actually a fair bit going on with this monster card that will need to be changed for Magic, but let's start with the easy stuff. First off, I want to look at the attack and defense points. I want to make a baseline of what feels like high attack compared to high power, and this is going to be a bit of a ballpark estimation, but I think equating 3000 attack to 8 power is about right. So with Asura Priest's 1700 attack being just over half of 3000, I want to translate that into just over half of 8, resulting in 5 power. For the toughness, I will use the same methodology, taking 12 defense points as just over a third of 3000, which will round up to 3 toughness. Next we'll look at the types. Asura Priest is a Fairy Spirit, so let's just change that to creature type Fairy Spirit. Easy enough. Now it's time to really dig into the effect of this monster card. First is the line, cannot be special summoned. This is going to be a bit of a weird one, but I think the best translation of this ability would be, when Asura Priest enters the battlefield, if it wasn't cast, return it to the zone it entered from. It's not perfect, but I think it's the closest we can get. By comparison, the line that Asura Priest be returned to hand at the end of the turn is much easier to translate. It would simply be, return Asura Priest to his owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. The last part of the effect is the real neat thing Asura Priest does, attack all opposing monsters once each. Now in Magic, your creatures don't attack your opponent's creatures like in Yu-Gi-Oh! But there are fight abilities, which is what I feel is the most apt for adapting this card. What I've decided to go with is, when Asura Priest attacks, for each creature defending player controls, you have Asura Priest fight that creature. Asura Priest deals no combat damage to the defending player this turn if it fought any creatures. Okay, so especially with a card like this that attacks and returns to hand at the end of the turn, being able to attack the turn it's cast is a rather big deal. So I'm just going to go ahead and give Asura Priest haste. Now there's something I want to change about this card as per my philosophy of adaptation over exact translation. Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters don't take damage like how Magic creatures do. Asura Priest should be able to just attack all creatures smaller than it without worrying about dying in the process, right? Well, in this case, I haven't found an elegant solution to this problem. The obvious route is not to have the defending creatures deal damage back to Asura Priest, but I found that leads to cascade issues, so for the sake of simplicity, I want to just give our creature the toughness to be able to deal with more than just a couple of creatures without being destroyed. For this reason, I'm giving Asura Priest a toughness of 6 instead. Finally, we get to the mana cost. I said at the start of this video that this will just be whatever I feel is appropriate for the card once everything else has been decided. Now this is quite the problem of a card in Magic, being able to take out a board of creatures the turn it comes into play, and because it has a sizable body as well, I think a mana cost of 7 would be appropriate. As for colors, because Asura Priest is now a creature with a fight ability, green feels the most appropriate color to use. I decided to make Asura Priest 5 green green. And that's it. Let me know what you would do differently, and if you enjoyed this video, please click those like and subscribe buttons. It helps me a lot and will keep you notified of the next video to come.